Joining us now is former Speaker of the House and Fox News contributor, author of many best-selling books. I think your best-selling book, though, was Understanding Trump, wasn't it?
It really was. It was amazingly successful because people were fascinated with this guy who had come out of nowhere, beaten 16 Republicans, beat Hillary Clinton, beat the elite media, and they wanted to understand him better. So and tonight I think will be a really important State of the Union. I think he's laying out, as he did in Davos, in the clip you had just now, he's laying out what Trumpism is all about. And also he's in a position now to talk as a winner, not just as a fighter, because look at the real results of the tax cuts. Look what's happening to everyday American people. By the way,
you mean you're talking about the crumbs Nancy Pelosi calls, $2,000 bonuses and pay increases and tax cuts that will maybe, in many cases, be $4,000 additional dollars a year for people.
Well, but let me give you an example. In Joe Kennedy's giving the Democratic answer tonight. In his district, the Ways and Means Committee figured out that a median family of four gets a $5,800 tax break. Now, that means that Joe Kennedy's got to explain why he voted against the people of Massachusetts in his district having $5,800 more in their pocket. And remember, over 10 years, that's $58,000 in their pocket. That's for a family of four. And I think Republicans are just going to get dramatically better at explaining the power of what Trump is doing. You get Walmart employees getting bonuses. You've got people all over the country getting bonuses. You have small businesses hiring people. The president has a guest tonight who I think has almost doubled his workforce because of the tax cuts. I just flew back today from Rome. I just landed in Washington a few minutes ago. And one of the people I flew with today said he is expanding his business because of the tax cuts. He said, I cannot tell you how much more business we're going to do and how much more we're going to invest in creating jobs because of that tax cut.
I mean, that's the amazing thing. I mean, all the economic activity that's taken place. I won't reiterate, I did it in the last half hour with Steve Scalise, but 2.2 million new jobs, 2 million fewer people on food stamps, and the lowest unemployment numbers for Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, 17-year low unemployment for women in America. I mean, these are great numbers. I think it's all fantastic, and especially getting rid of some of the burdensome regulation of government's a great thing. The media never talks about it, though. We've had a year of nonstop talk about one issue, Trump-Russian collusion. I, to this day, can't find anybody that has any evidence of such. So I would argue that he did all of this under... Well, but they do make it up. I mean, but it's problematic. It's been problematic for the president and for the White House, and Robert Mueller's still doing his thing.
I think that Mueller is the greatest threat to the Trump presidency because, as a prosecutor who has been given to an absurd level an ability to look at anything, it just sets up an almost impossible situation. And you have to ask yourself, for example, at a point in time when people were cooperating, when Paul Manafort was literally cooperating with the Senate and House committees, Mueller got permission to break into his house at 3 a.m. with people with weapons while Manafort and his wife were in bed. And you have to say to yourself, what exactly is the deep state trying to tell are they trying to intimidate all of us? Are they saying, on the other hand, of course, if you are a Clinton staffer, you're treated with kid gloves, you're not indicted, you're not in trouble, you don't have any difficulty. And I think this has got to, in part, be a year in which we really have a clear choice for the American people. You've learned now beyond any doubt that there were significant people at the senior level of the FBI who had gone off the tracks and who were pro-Clinton, anti-Trump in ways that totally threatened to discredit the system and, frankly, are dangerous. You can't have the nation's leading police force have people in the senior ranks who are politically that prejudiced.
What do you make of the fact that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, his girlfriend, are still at the FBI? What do you make of the firing of Andrew McCabe? He was let go. He was removed from that post. We're told from some reporting, Sarah Carter among them, that this exit is only the beginning of more resignations to come. And on top
I don't see how Peter Strzok survives. I mean,
why is he there now?
Well, I agree with you, but this is a place where, frankly, I'm very disappointed in Attorney General Sessions. He did not recuse himself from being responsible for managing the department. I mean, he can claim he's got a deal where he's not supposed to do something to Mueller. But in the case of Strzok, the Attorney General should be able to reach in there and suspend him immediately. I don't understand why he's not doing it.
Mr. Speaker, you know me a lot over the years, and the things that I know and the things that are coming to pass are about as troubling as anything I've ever seen in my life. I mean, let's put aside that we know Hillary rigged the primary election. I can only imagine what the media would be saying if it was Donald Trump. But then you have James Comey and Strzok and Page and apparently Andrew McCabe, and it even seems Loretta Lynch knew ahead of time that they were never going to hold Hillary accountable for known felonies that were committed with the email server scandal. It's, 18 U.S. Code 793. It is incontrovertible. She broke the law on multiple occasions. So they put the fix in for her so she can continue as a presidential candidate. Then she bought and paid for a Russian dossier. You can't make this up, full of salacious lies. That's to manipulate the general election and lie to the American people. And then that same dossier that Fusion GPS never verified, and they helped dispense, according to one testimony of Glenn Simpson, to the news media that's gullible. But then they use that as a foundation to spy on an opposition candidate in an election year and then a president-elect. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking this goes against every single fundamental right we have in our Constitution against unreasonable search and seizure, and it happened. And not only did it happen, but the news media is ignoring it all.
I would say that half or more of what we have come to learn, we've come to learn from investigative reporters on your show. I mean, you have personally pulled together more information about how sick the system got than NBC, CBS, ABC combined. Now, that's kind of astonishing. It's a tribute to you, and it's a tribute to the very smart people you have on the show. But it's also a really sad comment on where the elite media is. As I was saying with this over the weekend, because it is if you're a normal person, you're leading a normal life, and these things come and go, and you hear it and you think, wow, that's weird, but you don't quite get the rhythm of all of it. And I was talking to a reporter who was genuinely trying to understand this, which was sort of an interesting experience. But
luck with that.
It reminded me. I have a system I call putting the dots on the wall until the dots tell you whether it's a rhinoceros or a kangaroo or whatever. You just keep putting dots up. And so I want to suggest to you, and we'll see what your audience thinks of this, that you ought to think about putting together sort of a giant chart that would take the last few years, going back to Rod Rosenstein, who I think was actually in charge of the Uranium One investigation at one point.
Right.
And looking at, if you look at the way all these people weave together, it is stunningly incestuous.
They've spent their whole careers together. They all know each other. Listen, I've got to be honest. Here's what I don't understand either. I remember, and you and I often kid you about this because I kind of like to think that I paved my own way in this business, and I don't want to be like everybody else. I think the media is a bunch of sheep. I think they lie for a living. They've lied to the American people for a year. And my gut instincts, tell me to go in one direction. And I felt it was necessary to vet, for example, Barack Obama. I thought it was necessary 8 years later to point out that his policies had failed. These are all stories the country ignored. I mean, imagine if the picture of Louis Farrakhan, an anti-Semite and a racist, had shown up that existed before Obama ran in 2008. It would fit into the Ayers and Dorn and Acorn and Alinsky and Reverend Wright narrative. And there was a picture at the Congressional Black Caucus event of some kind. And it's the same thing here. I feel the media, with no evidence, has gone with a story that has been fake, phony, and fraudulent. And I think we have looked at something that may be the biggest scandal in American history. And I don't think I'm overstating the case.
No, I think that's right. I mean, first of all, I will confess that when you were really aggressively going after the radical links to Obama, I thought at the time you were overdoing it. And it was only later I realized how 100% you were the only person who really understood what all those different linkages meant. And you therefore had a much better sense of how radical Obama's administration was. So my hat's off.
No. But you also knew that there were people that wanted to destroy me at the time and want to silence my voice today.
Of course, look, but you've chosen sides in what is a cultural civil war.
Yes, I have.
I mean, you know, and so guess what? The other side doesn't like it.
This is why I love you so much. And the other side doesn't like you, and they hate you. Come out and say it.
It goes with the territory because you have been insisting on pulling the threads together. You've been insisting on highlighting the aggressive young investigative reporters who are making such a difference. And I think literally half of all the coverage of the totality of this scandal has been on your show, which is both a great compliment to you and a great condemnation of so much of the news media that's not covered it. But I do get a sense that the leakage is breaking down.
I hope you're right. I mean, I hope to God you're right. All right, hang on. We got to take a break. Newt Gingrich is with us, and obviously Newt's. Are you really working on another Trump book? I'm interested to hear about that.
I'm working on a book. Yeah, I'm working on a book called Trump's America.
All right,
and we're very excited by it. It builds on the next stage. I
want to ask you if Trump is a conservative or a national populist when we get back, because I think he's governing conservatively. All right, as we continue, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is with us. All right, so what advice would you give the president for tonight? Because I think this is going to be a pretty amazing story to tell in 1 year, a pretty big turnaround.
Well, I think, first of all, that he should be talking as president of the whole country, not as the leader of one faction. I think he should be talking as a winner, emphasizing the remarkable story of what's been happening with the economy. And why, and explaining why it's happening. Because one of the arguments we have to win this year is that in fact Trumpism works and liberalism fails, and we have to get that across to people so that they understand this is not an accident, but it's the victory of sound policy after a long period of the country doing dumb things.
Right.
So I think that's part. But the other thing I'll say is I hope that he will stay focused from now through Sunday on driving the messages of tonight. Do not take the bait. The elite media is going to be desperate to get him off message and get him off track and get him into some kind of junk. And he's got very powerful messages he's going to deliver tonight. And he ought to find every way for his cabinet and his White House team and himself to stay on that and drive it through the Sunday talk shows and just learn how to dominate the elite media and not let them set the agenda.
I think that's all important, but I also think that there is a great story to tell. And I think I just hope the Republicans are smart enough to follow through on health care and to build the wall. Those are the two big things, I think, for 18.
Well, first of all, I think they're going to continue moving in that direction. He's made that clear. I think they also have to spend a lot of their time this year driving home the impact and the power of the combination of deregulation and tax cuts. I mean, the fact is, and you said this in the last segment, we have the lowest black unemployment in many, many, many years, maybe in history. Well, how many African Americans understand that that's Donald Trump's policies?
Well,
and I think,
yeah, and I think that's going to make the difference. All right, Mr. Speaker, we're glad you're back from Italy, and we'll see you on Hannity coming up this week. Thank you for being with us. Quick break, right back.